Hey everybody, some people on the forums asked me to make a DAT PAT tutorial, and so I decided to show you my setup for PAT and also for reading comprehension. So on the PAT I made a 22 on the real deal. Not a phenomenal score, but considering things I think I did pretty well. On the Kaplan diagnostic, I'd made a 16, so I definitely improved. I used Kaplan, and then I used CDP, track that PAT, and then top score, just stuff from my practice test. And I'd say top score, as far as keyholes, is the closest to the real thing. And then for crack that PAT, I think it was similar for every other section. Except for angles. Angles were really hard. I would say they were comparable to Chad's angles almost. So, really hard. I'm pretty sure I missed a lot. I lost a lot of points for angles. But yeah, I made a 22 on that, so take my advice as is, I guess. But I definitely think these methods would really help me. And also, I'm not sure if everyone is allowed to do this setup during the first 15 minutes of the DAT, so I would call your testing center to make sure if you want to be prepared. I called my testing center, but I think the guy that I called was a really disgruntled employee and he didn't really know for sure. So I just decided to kind of go in on test day and not ask any questions. I didn't even ask him about it, and I just went ahead and started and just hoped that they didn't get mad at me for it. Okay. And on reading comprehension, I made a 25. I think the reading comprehension was really similar to top score. Not as hard as that Q vault, I don't think. So, I actually enjoyed reading 2 of my paragraphs, or 2 of my passages. So that really helped. But I didn't actually find this method, or I didn't actually make this method myself. I actually found it on someone's breakdown. I can't remember who it is, but it was someone who scored really high. So if I find out who it is, I'll mention in the description below to give them credit for this, because this method definitely helped me. I liked it a lot more than search and destroy, because it involved more structure, and I liked it more than Kaplan's method as well. So, on the PAT, I use tic-tac method for the hole punching. I use tallying method for the cube counting. And this is actually a really good method, I think. Not particularly for crack that PAT or any of the practice tests like Achiever. I didn't actually use Achiever, but I hear Achiever has crazy, ridiculous cube countings. So, for any of the figures or the structures that had multiple cubes, I'm talking maybe 20 plus cubes, 30, 40 plus cubes, this method probably isn't the best. I kind of got lost sometimes. But on the real DAT, I'm not sure if I got it easy, but I never had more than 15 or 20 cubes. So they were really small structures. So that should probably be your easiest section, I would imagine. Unless it was like a random toss-up and I just happened to get that easy section. And then sometimes I like to put just a couple rows of the answer choices. So just in case I have a problem with a keyhole question or a pattern folding question, I can go back and look at the answer choices I'd marked out or the ones I'd narrowed down. So you don't have to waste your time, because on the real DAT, they won't let you digitally mark out the questions that you've already eliminated. You just either have to remember them or just do this. And sometimes the question choices or the answer choices are very similar, so you might go back after you've finished the whole section, the PAT section, you might go back to your marked questions and forget which ones you'd already narrowed down. So this saves you some time if you're running short. So that was my PAT setup. This is all I wrote for the PAT, and I just used one side for this. I think I had 10 to 15 minutes left over in the section because I had started on the Crack That Pat video, or the test. I started timing myself for less time. I started at the regular 60 minutes, and then I shortened it to 55 minutes, and then to 50 minutes. So that's probably the reason why I had a lot of time left over, because I'd almost trained myself to prepare for less time. But with my extra time, I kind of did something stupid, and I went back and I checked all of my cube countings, because it was so easy that I got paranoid and I thought that I was missing something. Don't do this. Don't do what I did. You definitely should just go through your cube countings once. They were that easy. I think you should just go through it once and just assume that you got them all right, and spend your extra time or your leftover time on more important things like keyholes, pattern folding, something like that. I also went back to try to check my angle rankings, which was impossible for me. I couldn't even tell them apart. I probably started going cross-eyed near the end of my pat. So I wouldn't recommend that either, because it's almost like impossible to recheck your angles, because it starts looking all the same anyways. So spend your time elsewhere. Okay. For reading comprehension, I would number the paper from 1 through 50. And then instead of doing Kaplan's passage mapping, I would almost do some like question mapping. So let's say, for example, the question was, where can you find Helicobacter pylori? Or where's the location of the bacteria Helicobacter pylori? For that question, I would just put Helicobact and then put loc, or location. And as I was reading the passage, because this method, I would actually read the passage. So as I was reading the passage and I came across the answer, I would skip all the way to number 1, or whatever question it was, or I'd put the paragraph number where the answer is located next to the number. Say if you were on number 18 and you didn't really want to skip all the way back to number 1, because that would require too much time for you to just click away, then just go ahead and write that paragraph number there. So then later on you can just review and just check back where the answer is at. So that saves you some time. Otherwise, you would just never answer the questions in time or in order, which is what I did. I just never answer the questions in complete order. Okay, and some of the questions on the DAT will involve tone questions about the author, or just like deduction, or just questions that involve more critical thinking, like true and false questions and such. So for those questions, I would kind of put what kind of question it was, TF, true, false, tone, or author, and I'd put a big line just to indicate that these are questions that I might want to wait until later to answer, or wait at least until I'm done with that passage, so I can answer with more certainty. So that's how I did that. And each time I finished the question, I would just mark it off to make sure I knew that I'd already done it. Since I didn't answer the questions in order, I could get, if you didn't mark it off, you'd get a little lost and not know which one you'd already answered. Okay. I think that's it for reading comprehension. I've always been fairly good at reading comprehension because I really like reading. So I really can't give any more advice than that. Just make sure that you stick to whatever method you choose, because on my first passage I really didn't like it. It was really dull. I almost couldn't even force myself to read it. So I tried to switch to the search and destroy method. That didn't work out well for me. I started just freaking out because I didn't know any of the answers to the questions. So I definitely wasted 5 to 7 minutes on that, and then I went back to this method, which was kind of dumb of me. You should never try to change your method halfway unless you're on your last passage. You look at the timer and you have 10 to 15 minutes left. If you don't think you can finish in that time, then I'd say, yeah, do search and destroy and take out all the easy questions. And then you can go back and use whatever method you're doing, or just read the passage. But otherwise, if you have a lot of time, just stick to whatever method you've already practiced and developed. or otherwise you'll just be kind of confused, or at least I was. So yeah, this is what I used for reading comprehension. For reading comprehension, I'd say, like I said earlier, closer to top score. Not as hard as that Q-Vault. And I haven't tried Achiever, so I'm not really sure, but I think Achiever was ridiculously hard. Like harder than the DAT. And honestly, I don't think that reading science journals and stuff is going to help you improve this. Reading comprehension isn't something that you can, I don't know, increase your score exponentially or significantly within a month. I mean, I guess you can try. This is something that you should have already, like, you should already know how to read scientific papers. Or at least if you took, like, upper division, or just took, like, maybe you did it in general biology, or if you have some research backing you up. And I guess that probably helped me out. So yeah, I'll go ahead and make the individual videos for the PAT sometime in the future when I'm not as lazy. But I just wanted to show you guys these videos because I see a lot of people having problems on reading comprehension, so maybe this method will help them more than Kaplan or the search and destroy. Otherwise, I don't really know what other tips I can give you guys on this. So, okay, well, I'll see you in the other videos. Bye!